This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
So I'm on Trade Machine, and Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond works straight up salary-wise for Russell Westbrook.
It's unquestionably makes your team better, but at the same time, you have to deal with Russell Westbrook.
I mean, you just say
I'm down for it. Like I'm 100% in support of that, because if you're gonna pay Blake, get him a running mate and pay that guy too. Might as well.
If you're punting for 4 years, like, they might as well go all in.
Yeah.
Otherwise, move Blake.
Right. Exactly. If you're gonna pay a guy, if you're gonna have one guy making $40 million, might as well have two.
How much does it move the needle? Like, for me, it doesn't move the needle at all. I think it's better than having Reggie Jackson, but I don't, like, it doesn't make them any better championship-wise.
Championship-wise, no, but they're selling tickets more. If you got Westbrook and Blake, you're definitely going to sell tickets.
So, financially, it moves the needle.
It moves the needle.
Other than that,
I think they are better than the 8 seed if they have those two guys.
Well, I think they could be better than the 8 seed with what they already have. Just depends on, like...
It depends. It
who's
depends
in
on
front.
how much
Now,
Toronto falls off. It depends on,
Right. I mean, okay, so how about this? If Toronto puts Kyle Lowry on the market, would you rather trade Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond for Kyle Lowry, or Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond for Russell Westbrook?
Probably Lowry, because it's the last year of his deal. And then you have a bunch of cap space, and not that there's a bunch of free agents out there, but it never hurts to have cap space. Like, you can make trades, you can do things when you have cap space that you can't do if you don't. And I don't think, like, I mean, you know, Kyle Lowry's a championship point guard. Is Russell Westbrook? Like,
are we going down that path?
I'm not saying he's better, but he's cheaper this year, and you only have to pay him for 1 year. So if that's the case, sure. And, you know, Dwayne Casey obviously has familiarity with him, but I think it's more likely that we end up with Westbrook. I don't think you can trade Lowry right away if you're Masai after Kawhi just walked out the door.
Doesn't work for the Raptors, so it doesn't matter anyway. But it's only $1.3 million over. So
yeah, but you can't send the Raptors Drummond unless you're bringing back Gasol.
And you have to throw in picks. Yeah. So send both of them, and you bring back. We're gonna just say you send both of them in picks, and you're bringing back Kyle Lowry and Chris Boucher.
Okay. That one doesn't move the needle
at all. I don't think that's. I don't think it sells more tickets, but it gets you out of money a little faster.
But you bring Russell Westbrook in, man. People will pay to watch that guy run up and down the court.
How many good years do you get out of Russell? Like, I think it's going to be 2 decent.
That's the thing though. Last year was a bad year, and he's third team All NBA. Like, career lows across the board, shooting percentage, a bunch of different things. He still averaged a triple-double.
Was he All NBA? I forgot he was All NBA.
Yeah, and he averaged a triple-double again. Like, he won't have the ball in his hands as much. If they brought him here, it'd be a lot like a Simmons-Embiid thing, where Blake gets to run it in the half court, and Westbrook is your one-man fast break, and you just try and beg him to, like, shoot 45% from 2. Like, don't even worry about threes. Just take mid-range. Work a 2-man game with Blake and put pressure on the rim. Like, that could actually work.
The good news about it, for, like, at least for us, and I guess for the Pistons, is fans in this city are stupid. So they'll just, like...
That's a fact.
How many tweets have I already had to see of people like, holy shit, we got Derrick Rose? This is incredible. This is a great signing.
He's better than Reggie.
It's not a bad signing, but are we going to really call it a great signing?
It's a signing I think people just didn't see coming. I didn't think anybody thought the Pistons could get a guy, even after however many things have happened with D Rose, of the caliber of D Rose. Like, it's a dude who put up 50 last year. You know,
he did score 50 points in a game. You know who else scored 50 points in a game? Blake Griffin.
Yeah. So you got both those guys now. That's great. I mean, he shot better from deep. He showed improvement across the board. He seemed to have turned a corner last year that I don't think I ever saw him turning again. I'm not sure what we'll get out of him. He's, 29?
With double knee replacements.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in NBA years, he's 86, but, like...
He's fringe retiree at this point.
Well, I mean, he basically did twice already. He left New York and left Cleveland to just not play for a couple of weeks.
So, again, fans in this town are stupid.
Right.
And that's where I think if you get Russ and you can go, hey, we now have 2 former MVPs on this team
And another Morris.
We now have two superstars. We have a stretch big in Markieff Morris. What do you do at center? If you I get you're off Andre Drummond, so it's automatically
right.
Well, at least we're off Andre Drummond. But what do you do at center?
You could make a pitch to Brooklyn for Jared Allen if they're gonna pay DeAndre for 4 years. Maybe you could get it like a first Kennard and Langston Galloway for him or something. I don't know. Make a play at him, or you could just tell Thon Maker off the bench he has to block 4 shots a game, and good luck.
Boy, oh boy!
If once they lose Drummond, the rim protection's in trouble. That's what he gives you is rebounding and rim protection. You just don't want to pay $26 million for rebounding and rim protection.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of money.
It just reminds me that the Pistons are just in such a bad situation. I think of every team in the league. How many teams are in this bad? I read somebody's grades. I can't remember who it was, but somebody said the tiers of NBA team for the next however many years. It was the Pistons, the Hornets, and the Wizards were no hope.
That's a rough outlook.
Those 3 were no hope. It was because at least if you look at the standings from last year, and you look at the Knicks. I think it might have been the Knicks instead of the Wizards.
They have a little bit of hope more than the Pistons, just because they have all their contracts are coming off after 2 years.
Right, and then Giannis is going to say no in 2 years.
Of course. And hope in the sense that they're not dead yet, but they're never really dead.
Cleveland has a hope, not a ton, but they have hope because they do draft. They don't draft well, but they do draft.
The whispers are becoming louder and louder about Kevin Love too, and that they might actually be able to get something for him. I don't know what it is, but maybe you're sending out a Sexton or a Garland, whichever one you don't like, with Kevin Love and trying to bring back something more valuable.
Kevin Love's on a $28 million deal for this season.
It starts this year. 4 years, and it starts this year.
Let's see something. No. I'm thinking just in terms of what teams would be willing to do this. And the Celtics come to mind just because of their relative need at that position. Mm-hmm. It would take a lot just to match the salary.
I think the more likely scenario is Portland. I would think that would be it because they have young guys.
Having just gotten Whiteside and knowing you're getting Nurkic, I know the same thing.
No, but I mean, Kevin Love's not a 5. He can't be, and I know he can't guard 4s all that well. But he's not strong enough to play the 5. His body will break down if he plays the 5. We've seen it before, and I think you have a guy like an Anthony Simons, however you say it, Nasir Little. You have a couple other pieces that you could maybe send to Cleveland and bring back a Kevin Love and get off some money. You're already off Evan Turner. You're off. They did well in Portland this summer. They've done pretty damn well.
They did actually do very well.
Maybe they could bring Kevin Love in. I don't know. A team like...
Whoa! Breaking news. Oh, no, never mind. Oh, Jesus Christ. I was on Twitter and I saw Russell Westbrook going to Miami. Dion Waiters going to Oklahoma City. So Russell Westbrook to Miami. The Thunder get Dion Waiters, Kelly Olynyk, Justice Winslow, and picks.
Didn't Kelly Olynyk already get traded to Dallas?
All of these things seem... Now, I'm looking at them again. It's all in a thread of things where this is what could happen with Russell Westbrook.
So the last tweet I saw was Rondae Hollis-Jefferson signing with the Raptors, and I was like, that's not a big enough. That's too big of a reaction for Rondae Hollis-Jefferson.
Yeah, who cares? Anyway, all of the teams at the bottom have hope because they just have youth.
Sure.
Or Cleveland, they have an asset that's at least still movable.
Something.
The Pistons just have nothing. This is where being in the middle is the worst place to be.
They have. That's why I think the Russ situation is something they have to really, really look at. Because if you're not going to look at it, then you really kind of have to look at tearing it down. Because Blake's never more valuable than he is right now. If you want to give yourself some kind of head start on a rebuild,
you can't compete so long as Reggie Jackson is your starting point guard.
No chance.
If you won't entertain Russell Westbrook or you won't entertain Kyle Lowry
or Chris Paul,
right? None of them are good options.
No,
but they're better than Reggie Jackson,
unquestionably.
If you want to compete, if you aren't willing to look at those guys and go, yeah, we should take those. If you're looking more and going, well, we have Kyrie Thomas and Bruce Brown coming up. Okay, then you need to move Blake.
Yeah,
because that's where you can't have Blake's money holding you back in 2021 when the free agency market opens up and supposedly you're going to have money.
And I'm not mad that they're going to spend on D Rose and they're going to try this again, and maybe the East gets a little bit worse with a couple of stars going out west, but what are they looking at this year? 7-8 again. They're not going to be better than 7 or 8. Brooklyn got better. Boston stayed good. Indiana takes a hit. Maybe you can move up there. Toronto takes a hit, but I don't think you're better than them. Like,
okay, for fun, let's do the 6 best teams in the East. I'll just riff them off the top of my head. For me, Bucks 1,
Sure.
Sixers 2, Celtics 3, Pacers 4, Nets 5.
I have the Nets in front of the Pacers, but I'm with you.
I don't come to the Pistons until we get to 6.
Yeah, I mean,
and then
at
it's
best,
picking hair, like Heat there,
yeah,
and
the
then
Heat are there. I mean, the Magic made the playoffs in front of the Pistons last year. They were the 7. They have not gotten worse. Like, they brought
haven't
back
gotten better,
Vucevic,
but
they brought back Terrence Ross. They've done okay things. I don't know where the Pistons got better. Like, did getting Derrick Rose make you a whole playoff spot better?
And it's also like, is getting Derrick Rose a move that a competitive team makes? This is the biggest struggle I have with the Pistons is their vision contradicts itself, because it's like, well, we have this big 3 that we can sell you on of Reggie and Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin. One, that's not a big 3.
No,
it's
Jackson's not ever part of a big 3 ever.
It's stuff. It's 2 guys who don't make the All-Star team and an All-Star. And then you, like, even if you bring in Derrick Rose, that's not a move a competitive team makes. Minnesota brought him in a season where they missed the playoffs. And it's not like they were ready to compete. They were ready to look at moving their best player.
Yeah, and I mean, everything that happened in Minnesota last year was pick any bad adjective. Like, you fire your coach, you do a whole bunch of different things, a star blows up a practice, which happens more often than you think, but they actually trade him. Whole bunch of things happen. And for his credit, he played pretty well last year. Off the bench at times, he got injured again. He missed time again, but he was better than Ish Smith off the bench last year. So I guess it's a little bit of an upgrade, but there's other teams like, hey, Chicago got better this summer. I'm not saying that Chicago is going to be better than the Pistons, but they got better this summer.
I don't know if they got playoff better, but they got better.
No, but I mean,
for sure.
Laurie takes another step. Carter gets to be healthy. Remember, neither of those guys played, I think, even 60 games last year.
Laurie, I think, is really good. The fact that they're finally ready to move off of Chris Dunn is, I think, good. And
Satoransky, I'm not so sure is the guy you want to move off Chris Dunn for, but he's probably better than Chris Dunn.
That's a team where, one, Garpax are a disaster, and they need to decide what they want to do with this team, whether they want to be present. Again, it all comes down now for a lot of these teams to the summer of 21, when it's going to be the largest free agent market in NBA history. And if you want to be around for that, you need to start that vision now of, like, what are we going to be able to offer?
And I mean, Laurie
teams like the
restricted
Hawks
that year too.
Right. Yeah. Teams like the Hawks are in phenomenal shape because they can go, look at all this young talent we've just cultivated. Come be our guy.
Yeah, I mean, the Hawks, we haven't seen DeAndre Hunter yet because the trade hasn't gone through, but other than that, they're as loaded with young talent as we've seen. They've got as many guys, and not all of them are going to get maxes. I don't think John Collins is headed for a max next summer. He'll get a good deal, but I mean,
Trey will get it, but what, 2 years out?
3.
Yeah, so John Collins is eligible, but no, he'll.
No. Yeah, he's not.
Then again, Jamal Murray just got a max.
That's they didn't even give Jokic a max. Like, they gave Jokic a little bit less than the max to get the 5th year.
Jamal Murray signed the 6th biggest contract in NBA history.
It's wild.
Jamal Murray.
I mean,
like, LeBron James, once upon a time, signed 4 years for $67 million in Miami. Yeah. Jamal Murray just signed 5 for $170 million.
It's a bonkers number.
He averaged 18 points a game.
Yeah, he's never been close. Like, I love to say he hasn't been an all-star yet. Like, he hasn't been close to an all-star yet. And in the Western Conference, you think he's making one in the next 4 years? Who's falling off?
That's the thing, too. They're
CJ McCollum's never made one.
They're so good.
CJ McCollum cooked him that playoff series, ended his season, and that guy's never made an all-star team.
And that's, somebody was said there are probably 4 players that deserve the Supermax extension, and only one of them has it, and it's Steph. Yeah. And he said the other 4, Kawhi, LeBron, and Kevin Durant, and they're not even eligible for it.
Well, so but Kawhi's that's his own fault.
Yeah.
When you force your way out, then you're giving that up.
And to be fair, he would have been 10-year eligible if he'd done 1-1 in Toronto, but that's out the door now.
Right.
So again, 3 of the 4 best players in the league, or the 4 most deserving players in the league of that deal, won't ever have that deal.
True.
And it's like, this is kind of where I was hoping to start the show before the world exploded and Russell Westbrook became a legitimate trade candidate to Detroit, was, besides Kawhi and Paul George teaming up in LA, what's the ramifications of Jamal Murray getting $170 million at 4 years? Because last week we talked there will be a lockout, but they might not miss games. At this point, When Jamal Murray gets $170 million, these governors, come 2021, 2022 are going to look at each other and go, we gave up $3 billion in less than 6 hours in the first day of free agency.
Yeah, I mean, Stan Kroenke's got deep pockets, but at the same time, there was nobody out there that thought that deal was coming, especially that quickly. Like, you have a whole nother year, and then you can restrict him.
He's 2 years out of being restricted.
It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It's like the John Wall deal, but even earlier. And
but with John Wall, I mean, he's been an All-NBA guard.
Right. He was a much better player.
Yeah, number one pick. He's the face of your franchise, signature shoe, a whole bunch of things.
I get the whole thing where people are like, well, he's got this incredible chemistry with Jokic, and you have to send messages to your young guys that you want to stand by him. And I'm like, don't you also want to send a message to your young guys that you want to build a good team? Because every single team that's offered this contract to someone that young, it's come back to bite him in the ass.
I mean, this is like goodbye Paul Millsap after next year. He's not coming back. They're not going to be able to afford him.
Speaking of which, picking him up at $30 million, what are they thinking?
I would have tried to renegotiate that one, especially if you think Michael Porter Jr. can be your 4 this year.
Right. How do you not look at Paul Millsap and say, hey, how about we do 2 for 30 instead of 30 just next year?
Yeah, that would have been nice. Like, they've done some things in Denver. I like Tim Connolly. He's a good GM, but they've done some things that I don't really understand, especially if they think they have something in Porter. They didn't need to spend money and do these things. It's going to cost them either Harris or Barton or Beasley or one of those guys. They're not going to be able to pay everybody now because you gave Murray way too much. Like, if Jamal Murray doesn't average 22 this year, what are we talking about? Like,
it's
like the guy. It's $170 million.
It's buku money, for lack of a better term. It's like when I saw that come across, my live thought, and I wish we would have been like still recording our show when he signed it, because immediately I said, all right, there's been a lot of typos from Shams all day. Come on, Shams, get the correction
Seriously.
out. Get the I know it's
5 years, $70 million.
Yeah, I know it's 5 for 110. Come on, Shams. Yeah. Come on, get this thing. No. I woke up the next morning and it still said 5 years, $170 million for a guy who just averaged 18.2 points a game on 43.7% shooting.
I mean, they gave him a Booker extension. Like, he's not Devin Booker. Like that's the comp for him, right? That type of player.
And that's where that's where I think we're really headed toward what might be a long lockout. Because if you're Steph Curry and you're like, I had to wait 8 years to sign that extension. If you're Damian Lillard, you had to wait 10 years to sign that deal. Like, all these guys had to do all these things to sign these. Chris Paul, for Christ's sake, had to wait his entire career and collectively bargain this contract to sign that deal. All of a sudden, Jamal Murray at 22 years old is signing a $170 million 5-year extension. That's more than Ben Simmons.
I mean, the cap keeps going up on the Booker deal is 5 for 160, and the Embiid deal was 5 for 158 or whatever. Wiggins is 5 for 148. Yeah. Like, it just keeps going up and up and up. But now if guys like Jamal Murray get it, and that's where my first thought as like a Celtics person was, if it's going to take $170 million to extend Jaylen Brown, trade him. Yeah.
Like, we're at a point now, if this is what it's going to take to keep your young guys, small market teams are going to be pressed. Small market teams are going to go into the next CBA meeting like, dude, this contract thing is actually screwing us.
Yeah, I mean, if he's not good, you've got that on your books now. You're not going to be able to trade that contract.
Oh, no.
Because
no.
Let's say he's 23 and he still hasn't averaged 22 a game, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is what he is now. He's an 18 to 20 point scorer, and he's a streaky guy who every so often can go in 40s or 50s, but he's not going to get you 25 every night. Then you can't pay that guy $170 million. Not when you're paying Jokic that much. Not when he's not nearly as good a defender as Gary Harris or Will Barton. Like, you got to pay for what you need.
And then what do you like if you're Gary Harris? You're glad your friend got paid, but at the same time, it's like, where's mine?
Yeah, I mean, he got 4 for 84 or whatever it was a couple years ago, but that's
still
it's
$100 million less.
That's not 170, and there are definitely people out there who would say Gary Harris, just because of the way he plays two-way basketball, is just as important as what Jamal Murray does.
And I'm looking up the highest contracts right now. Steph Curry's the highest paid average annual value. Mm-hmm. He will make right now $2 million more than Jamal Murray will make in the first year of his extension. Like LeBron James makes $35 million. That's what Jamal Murray will make in the first year of his extension.
It's a bonkers contract, and I'm having trouble coming to a conclusion of like, what does he do to make that worth it? Like, what is Jamal like to make a $170 million deal worth it? He's got to be an all-star starter, and you got to be in the finals.
Like I don't even get the All-Star game. You can keep it. He's got to be first team All NBA.
Sure, but I'm like,
and he's not going to be because he plays the wrong position.
And
like he can't be first team All NBA.
The thing about it too is you can get away with giving a guy like Blake Griffin $170 million when he's 8 years into his career and it's back pay. Like this guy's just finished his third year.
Yeah,
like there's nobody clamoring to give him this money. No one was going to throw this at him. You just gave it to him. Like, I get it's an investment, but like,
and I wonder really how many GMs saw that come across the wire and just were like, "What the fuck did you just do to me?"
Yeah, I mean,
because I'm all for player empowerment. I'm all for player mobility. But when things like this happen, it ruins it for all of the smaller teams. It ruins it for teams like Atlanta, who now in a couple years are going to have to look at John Collins and say, "Hey, here's 5 for 90." And he's like, "Excuse me, did you see what Jamal Murray just got paid? Are you telling me he's a better player?"
And then you're going to say, "Did you see what Miles Turner got paid? Because he leads the league in block shots, and you're more like him than Jamal Murray." Like, it's just, I don't understand how that works. Like, Miles Turner getting a 4 for 80 or whatever it is, like, he's more valuable to what the Pacers do than Jamal Murray is to what the Nuggets do.
Well, it's the same thing with Brogdon. Like, Brogdon gets the 4 for 90. I know his foot's a time bomb, but he is not. I would argue that Brogdon healthy is more valuable than Jamal Murray. I think the upside there might be less upside, but I think what Brogdon does is more valuable from an efficiency standpoint.
Oh, he's wildly more efficient
than having Jamal Murray take volume shots on mediocre efficiency.
There's been multiple times where Jamal Murray will shoot his team out of a game.
Plenty.
Yeah.
And it's like the only reason he got this deal is because he had a hot streak in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. You know how many guys have had hot streaks in the playoffs, signed big deals, and then died?
Right. I mean,
I think the Nuggets fucked up, and I think they might be. I think they're probably right now the third best team in the West. But why are you paying them that much money? Like picking up Millsap for $30 million, I don't get.
I'm not even sure they're third. Like, I think Portland's better than them. Like, Portland just beat them. I have to give Portland credit for that.
True, like, and if Nurkic, they did it without Nurkic too. So I guess
now they have Whiteside. He's probably more equipped to go toe to toe with
than Cantor, certainly.
Like, yeah, I mean, the Clippers, Utah, and Portland are all better than them, and I don't think they're going to beat LeBron in a playoff series, LeBron and AD.
So that's the thing with the Lakers is, like, I want to say they're probably 5th or 6th in the West, seeding-wise, just because those guys won't play enough games.
They'll play 60 games.
Certainly. But I do want to be like, they're 5th or 6th best in the West, but then I'm like, realistically, those guys aren't getting bounced in the first round of the playoffs.
They're going to do everything they can to avoid the Clippers till the conference finals. That, like, the way that they will position themselves with rest
might mean they have to be the 8th seed.
It could like, well, I mean,
or the 7, whatever it is.
7. But either way, you're going to try to do anything you can to position yourself to not have to play them to the conference finals.
Why not position yourself to just play them right away? Like, I mean, I know you're looking at getting yourself bounced, but if you're going to coast load management through the regular season, why not just set yourself up to have your most rested playoff series come against the best team you'll face?
But then it's like that dichotomy of, well, you give them time to get hurt, but you give us time to get hurt, and you never know what happens. Like, Kawhi and Paul George are not exactly the most historically healthy guys in the world. Like, that's another thing we should talk about.
They're not as historically injured as Anthony Davis, but
Paul George had 2 bad shoulders last year. Kawhi Leonard missed a whole season. Like, there are things that have happened.
Even if you take one of those guys out, and Kawhi missing the full season, if we're being honest, he probably was healthy enough to play.
More than likely, but I mean, he was clearly laboring in these playoffs and gutting it through it. Paul George has had 2 shoulder surgeries this summer.
Fair. And he had his leg torn in half.
Absolutely. Lou Williams has torn an ACL before. I don't ever think it'll happen again because he's basically rubber. But they have guys on that team that it could go downhill for. And I don't want to make it
We also just learned anything can happen in the NBA.
Oh, yeah, just like that. Like, Russell Westbrook could be a Laker. It could happen. I don't know how the hell it could happen, but there's probably a way it could happen.
They got to trade everybody that they just signed.
Seriously. Basically, that's it. Like, I don't... They'll figure it out. Something will happen, and Russell Westbrook will end up being like a Sixer. Like Ben Simmons going somewhere else.
Oh, Jesus.
And, yeah, just something wild.
I would hate
Westbrook
that.
and Embiid on the same team.
Because I actually think Westbrook on this, like, just saying it, I think that would be a really good fit for him.
And they hate each other, Westbrook and Embiid. That's legitimate hate.
I know, they genuinely hate each other, but I just think, like, basketball-wise, it would be a good fit for him.
Sure.
At least, I mean, well, he can't really shoot.
They'd love him in Philly.
He can't really shoot that much better than Simmons. He just is willing to shoot.
But he will shoot. Like, are you starting to see the Ben Simmons shooting tapes this summer already? I think they've already started.
Yeah, but they're all like 3 years old. That was the first thing I said.
I like
saw
just
one
shooting with no one on him in a gym. And like
he was in UNLV shooting with his left hand. They're like, he's going to come out scared. I'm like, every summer we do this.
Last year I saw Andre Drummond hitting threes. It doesn't happen. Like
every year we see Carmelo Anthony in a Lifetime Fitness just hitting 33s in a row.
Thing on Instagram of him playing against Greg Anthony's kid at Lifetime. Like I was like, yep, there's Carmelo schooling a 17-year-old.
Yeah. Thank God that we could. This is a guy who needs to be signed. By the way,
he's getting signed.
I'm shocked the Woj bomb that Melo is going to the Lakers on a vet min hasn't been tweeted yet.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Who is most likely to be forced off of the Lakers by LeBron?
That's a tough one. I'm going to say JaVale.
I feel like DeMarcus Cousins.
It's one of those two.
Is the most get the fuck off of my team guy I've seen LeBron paired with.
But they went like that was an AD sign. Like AD wanted him.
Like, I know that they were good friends when he was in New Orleans, but it didn't go well. So why all of a sudden...
Before he got hurt that year, it was going well. They
played better without him.
But they were both MVP candidates together. Like, they were both very good. They were in a playoff spot. Like, they were good. They had figured it out. And my question is, like, if I'm Kyle Kuzma, when you traded for Anthony Davis, I think I probably thought I was the starting four.
And now Anthony Davis said I want to play the four.
And there's two guys at the five, so how much playing time do I get at the four?
Dude, that's the other thing with like everything that they've done. One, I've been on Twitter lately, and I don't know if you've seen it, but I am not a fan of Kyle Kuzma.
Like at all?
I don't know where you stand.
I mean, I don't think he's an all-star, but he's a nice player. He's in his third year.
He's a bad shooter, and he's 24 years old.
But he's in his third year, and he's a serviceable NBA. Like, I'm not asking him to be an all-star.
Sure, but like I think the Lakers might have been asking him to be an all-star, and that's where it's like, if for what they wanted out of him, I don't think he was ever going to become that. And
no, but I think he'll have a nice career.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say I hope that he fucking dies in a plane crash, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
I think he is better than any 27th pick I can remember in the last 5 years.
I might have to run through them, but my point is, I think they need to move off of him because of the way that they've signed all of this stuff, and it's
rookie deal though.
But the catch and shoot like the volume of his shooting, I don't think that changes because I don't think it's something that they're like working on him to not do. I think it's, hey, we kind of want you to shoot open threes. The problem is he doesn't make open threes. Shot 30% on wide open 3 attempts. Yeah,
but I mean, 6'10" guys shooting 30% you're going to take that.
But when they're doing it 6 times a game,
it's a little much. But also, who the hell else was going to shoot threes for the Lakers last year?
Reggie Bullock.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope led them in 3-point percentage.
He's coming back.
Thank God. Another clutch. Like, oh my God.
Their point guard combo of Alex Caruso and Rajon Rondo.
When I saw they gave Caruso a 2-year deal, I was like, that's just because they had to sign someone they already had. They couldn't go out and get somebody else. They had to have a cap hold on somebody, so they had to have another body, so it had to be Alex Caruso. And also, it's the only guy who makes LeBron look like he has hair.
Robert Williams is a better 27th overall pick than...
He hasn't even played a game yet.
What year was Kuzma drafted? 17 or 16? 17?
17, I think.
I'm going to just run back through these. 27 and 16. Pascal Siakam. We're already done.
Was he 27?
Yeah, we're already done.
Well, that's just a coincidence.
We're already done. 27, 2015. Larry Nance Jr. Again.
No. Kuzma's wildly better than Larry Nance.
27. Oh, again. 27, 2014. Bogdan Bogdanovic.
Kuzma all day. Like,
over Bogey?
I think he's a good player. Wait, which Bogdanovic.
Bogdan, yeah.
Yeah, but the Suns drafted him and they didn't even sign him.
27, 2013, this is inarguable, and I don't even like this player at all. Rudy Gobert.
Defensively, sure. No doubt about it.
I don't like that player at all. Oh, Arnett.
Why are so many guys picked 27th?
It's magic.
Like, who's the 26th? Like, he's better than any 26th pick. How's that?
Arnett Moultrie in 27 in 2012. I'm going to go back to 2010
legend,
here.
Arnett Moultrie.
2011, 27. Jawan Johnson.
Big Ten Player of the Year, Juwan Johnson.
Sure is. 2010. Oh my God, I'm gonna get the name wrong now. I scrolled away. Jordan Crawford.
Xavier's finest.
Yes.
One hell of an NCAA tournament game with Jacob Pullen in Kansas State. I remember that one.
This is a pretty good 27. Right behind Taj Gibson at 26. 27, Damari Carroll in 09.
I'll take Kuzma.
What is with 27 and
know.
being like a decent draft slot? I got to find who was taken ahead of Rudy Aaron Aflalo.
Piston, great.
Classic Piston. Right ahead of Gobert was Miles Plumlee. Let me see.
Miles Plumlee.
2014.
Whichever Plumlee.
26 was PJ Hairston out of North Carolina. Remember him?
Not in the league anymore.
Clint Capella at 25. 2015 was Nikola Milutinov, and there's not even a team.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, he went to the Spurs. There's no statistics
like
listed
pick.
for him.
Yep.
It must have been a stash.
That sounds like a Spurs pick.
2016. Furkan Korkmaz ahead of Pascal Siakam.
They're going to need him to be big in Philly this year. He needs to come off the bench and give him some shooting.
All right, Kuzma was picked ahead of Derek White. I would have rather taken Derek White. Plus, I feel like the Lakers could use him better than they're using Kuzma.
Imagine if Kuzma were in San Antonio. Would you be saying you would have rather had Derek White, or you think they would have done a better job with Kuzma?
I think to an extent, shooting is shooting.
Yeah, I think I'm still taking, like, Derek White could prove it to me this year, and it's not like I don't like Derek White. I do a lot. I think him and DeJounte Murray could be the best defensive backcourt in the NBA, unless you count Kawhi Leonard and or Paul George as a shooting guard.
Listen, I'll just say this: the slot where Kuzma was taken at 23 was OG Anunoby, and that's a very good pick. 24 was Tyler Lydon, bad pick. 25 was Anzis Pešić, who we're never going to see.
Right.
26 was Caleb Swanigan. So
is he still in Portland? Is he in the league? I don't know where
he is. So 27 Kyle Kuzma, not terrible. But again, I'm not a fan of Kyle Kuzma.
I don't think he's an all-star, but I think he's a guy, like, if the Pistons swung a deal for him, I'd be like, oh, cool, he fits next to Blake. Like, you know.
Yeah, I'd be all right with that. I wouldn't hate it. Again,
Flint guy, you know.
I also don't know, like, he's not going to, being an older rookie, he won't command that money.
Well, I think
big.
This will be the biggest deal he'll get, will be his next one off his rookie deal, which means he's not playing for the Lakers.
Right. How big is it going to be? He's going to get that Brogdon probably 4 for 80.
It all depends. If the Lakers win a title and he's a part of it, then we're looking at a big deal, or they're probably looking at trading him.
See, I think like that's where I think they should trade him, but he's making $1.5 million.
Yeah, but
so it's like if you want to match the salary, it's not even worth it.
If they go deep in the playoffs this year and he averages 19.5 as the third scorer and the third option on that team, you're going to trade him because they'll get a haul for him, and they could probably clear Luol Deng's stretch provision with him or something with him.
They'd have to find a way to create a trade exception somewhere else probably,
right.
But yeah, they can make it happen.
Not that they have any picks. Maybe they could get some picks back.
Los Angeles basketball teams and holding on to first-round picks over the next 4 or 5 years is not a very popular thing at the moment.
We killed Pelinka for that, and I think rightly so. It's very difficult to mortgage a future. And in the Clippers, it's not exactly the same because Pelinka did it for a guy on a one-year deal, though it's widely expected that AD is going to resign. But, hey, Jerry West just did the same damn thing. So if we're going to rip Pelinka, we at least have to, say, hey, Jerry, that was a little reckless.
No, and I do think it was a little reckless. They gave up a lot.
Yeah. At least 2 of the picks weren't theirs.
Sure. That's giving up Shea is where that was the one. Like, giving up the picks, I don't really give a shit about because, to me, you are bringing in the best player on planet Earth for 4 year. Sounds good.
2 of the top. You have to look at it like you're trading for 2 guys.
Like you're bringing in the best player on earth and
Paul George,
an MVP finalist for
DPOY
4 years.
Like,
can you really give up too much in draft capital? Like,
no, and
anything
again,
you get in the
Miami's
draft,
picks. 2 of them are Miami's picks.
Anything they get in the first round of the draft over the next 5 years. Is it going to be better than Kawhi Leonard or Paul George?
Only if those Miami picks are good. Like, giving up their own picks, I don't have a problem with because you're going to be a good team.
But that's what I think, like, once Miami got Jimmy Butler and then got off of Whiteside and was actively trying to do other things, you look at those Miami picks and you go, those are probably not even going to be lottery.
Miami's still super interesting because they could still move Dragic. Like, Dragic is on an expiring. If you could move Dragic and somebody else, you could bring in Westbrook at that point. Like, you have to move 2 or 3 guys with them.
Right, and then all of a sudden they're looking at having Russell Westbrook and Jimmy Butler as their duo in Miami, fill the rest of the roster out. That's a playoff team in the East, easily.
No, I think they're a playoff team in the East now.
And so if
they keep Dragic and they do those things, I think they're a playoff team in the East. I don't think they're going to keep Dragic, though.
And so if they're not picking in the lottery, it's a lot easier to stomach giving up their first-round picks when you're bringing in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
Sure.
Giving up Shea stings a little bit because, one,
That's the centerpiece, though. For OKC,
Right.
like the picks of the unknown, we want the young guy, too.
I love Shea, and I'm
great
sad that he's going to be stuck in Oklahoma City.
For now.
One.
Okay.
I think he's going to be there for quite
I
a
do
while.
too, but there was there's that random talk of, Billy Donovan, Coach Bradley Beal, and now you have all these good picks
boy.
and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. If you wanted to just reload and go get Bradley Beal to pair with Westbrook, that's something you could do, but it plunges you right back into the tax.
And it doesn't move the needle for me as far as their competitive ability
It's
in
just
the
like
West.
the same thing, but smaller, right? Like
Right.
Beal's a good defender. He's those things
Like
that Paul
that's-
George is, but like
Your trio is going to be Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, and Steven Adams.
You would have
You're
to
gonna
stagger
have
them.
And that's the other thing is Westbrook and Beal are going to fight for shots
they
the
gotta
same way
stagger. That
Ball
would
and
be
Wheel
like-
fought for shots.
it'd be asking Russ to do a lot less. Even for a guy who isn't as good as Paul George, you'd be asking him to do less.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I've struggled with if the Celtics might trade for Bradley Beal, because Bradley Beal has a problem fighting for shots with another alpha. Like, that's what's always been the issue in Washington with him and John Wall.
It could be that specific alpha, partly.
Could be, because John Wall's just a nutcase.
Seriously.
But you put him next to Kemba, and all of a sudden, is Kemba going to be upset that half of his shots are going to Brad Beal? Kemba's probably one of the better guys
I
to
think
put
Kemba's
next to him.
excited to give up shots to guys
Could
who can
be.
make shots for
Could
the
be.
first time in his
Could be.
career. He doesn't have to
He
pass
might be
the
okay
ball.
with that. You mean I get to play with another all-star?
There's other people here who can get a bucket on their own? I've never had that before.
Pretty good.
They told me my rookie year I had Tyrese Thomas, and I was excited, and then all hell broke loose. And I got stuck there for 7 more years
Maybe
after.
not a perfect comparison. Maybe pairing Beal and Kemba would actually work out pretty well.
I think
but
Kemba's
I
just
think
going to be psyched to be able to have teammates who can score.
putting Beal and Westbrook together would feel like a disaster before, because it feels like Beal and Wall.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason that's a draw is like, Billy Donovan coached him in college. It's like, yeah, for like 6 months.
I think there is like a fair comp between John Wall and Russell Westbrook as a player.
Without a doubt.
Like, if just Westbrook didn't ever get hurt. Like, Westbrook is John Wall if John Wall never gets hurt.
Well, Westbrook's got hurt. He's just come back faster because he works out and doesn't party all night and get fat in the summertime. Like
John Wall probably has a better pull-up jumper, but not by
a
much.
whole lot. Yeah, like he's a better shooter from distance, but Westbrook puts more pressure on the rim.
But again,
Wall's probably a more fluid passer, but Westbrook will average more assists because he's just a motor.
Westbrook also was probably a better distance shooter until he just forgot how to shoot from distance this year.
I don't know what that is, but yeah, they're similar. I mean, even coming out in the draft, like that was the comp for Wall. Was like, he's Russell Westbrook-esque. He's a one-man fast break.
Right.
He likes to pass the ball. He can shoot from the mid-range. He can do those things. He's a good defender when he turns his motor on, but John Wall's motor has always been the biggest question about John Wall. Does he have the motor, or is he going to sit in front of cameras and say, I'm not apologizing for living my life. I go to clubs before games. It's what I do.
Is he ever going to play basketball again? All of these things and more after the break.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I have no idea what's going to happen to John Wall. None. Like, we're sitting here conjecturing, like, who could Westbrook get traded to? Who could take that contract? Like, I have no idea what's going to happen to John Wall. And I'm guessing there's been a lot of GM candidates with the Wizards who want to know the answer to that before they agree to the job of, can I get rid of this guy for
I bet you
pieces?
that's a big part of the reason why that position
That's
hasn't
what I'm
been
saying.
filled.
Absolutely. Like, I'm sure at least one of those guys sat in front of Ted Leonsis and said, I'll take this job if you let me trade John Wall for a second-round pick tomorrow.
And I'm sure Ted Leonsis said, are you out of your fucking mind?
And then I don't want the job. Like, I want a complete rebuild with this guy gone because his contract is a literal anvil.
Like, I think if Chris Paul were going to be traded, it would have happened by now. And I know, the chaos of free agency can get in the way of those things, like with Kyrie when he got traded to Boston, all of these different things. I feel like if somebody were going to say, yeah, we'll take on his contract, they would have taken it on by now.
It's going to be like, it's one of those situations like, does somebody lose their quarterback in training camp and go get Sam Bradford?
Sure. Right. And that's where, like, if people are that hesitant to go and get Chris Paul, who is injury prone and is older and is on a really bad contract, but it's objectively better than John Wall's contract.
For sure.
Nobody wants to go get John Wall.
No. And I think with Chris Paul, like we sat here last week and said when Jimmy Butler inevitably says, no, I'm not coming to Houston, what the hell does Houston do? Because we've heard everybody's available. And then we've heard, nope, we're bringing back our starting five and we're happy. And then we heard, well, we want Jimmy Butler and we'll move Eric Gordon and Capella to do it. So what's the next thing we hear from Houston? Like, I have no idea what comes next.
Listen, last week when we did this show, I said that they just need to run it back because the Warriors are dead. If you really believe that you're the second best team in the West, and now the Warriors are dead, just run it back.
Yeah, and I did not mention them when we went through the top four or whatever we said in the West. Like, they're certainly right there.
I haven't talked about them.
Kill each other.
Yeah, I haven't talked about them much at all, just because I do think there will be a very real fall off. And now that the Clippers have done what they have done,
for sure, they're definitely not the favorites in the West like they were before the Clippers. And
no.
I think, like, in all reality, we mentioned what? Clippers, Utah, Denver, Portland, the Lakers. Houston's in that mix, but it's
Golden State.
It's Golden State. There's a question of will they bite each other's heads off, and also will their owner try and railroad their coach out of, like, what's going to happen?
I think just like also the people always say how fast the league changes.
Sure.
The Golden State and Houston are prime examples because a year ago people were like,
for the last 2 years,
Western Conference Finals guaranteed. Houston, Golden State. This year they might both be like the 7 and 8 seed in the West.
And you look at Golden State and you say, well, that makes sense. They had two massive injuries.
Sure.
They lost one of their best players. Houston has lost nothing, not a damn thing. Like, what'd they lose? Nene? Like, they're just as good. They just hate each other.
Most bad contracts, when I look at them, are like, the first two, like Al Horford, the first 2 years are going to be pretty good. The last 2 years are going to be really bad.
Right.
When Chris Paul signed his extension, I remember saying they will be lucky to get 2 good years out of this.
I thought they had 1 year. I was like, you pay for 1 year, you win the title, and then I just move them right away.
And so that's where I am with this team now. Is like, I think you're now in the bad part of his contract, and that's where I don't see you being like, I think they're what Oklahoma City was a year ago. Maybe not in the same manner, because I don't think they'll be anywhere nearly as good at defensively. But that's just where I think they'll fall.
And I said they didn't change anything in Houston. I lied. They fired their entire coaching staff, other than Mike D'Antoni.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they've done all
and then
that.
they left Mike D'Antoni on a lame duck deal.
And I mean, well, the Tillman Fertitta press conference, to get in after you basically put in a buyout that would never be included in a coach of Mike D'Antoni's caliber's contract ever. Like, they read it and were like, "What the hell is this?" Like, the whole deal sounds fine, but we're not having a buyout after 1 year. That's not going to be a thing we do. And then Tillman Fertitta gets in front of the press and says, "I thought we had a deal." His agent said we had a deal. I don't know what happened. Yeah, you do. And also, you didn't tell your PR staff that you were getting in front of the press. Like, this is a casino owner going rogue right now, owning a basketball team.
And you texted me earlier this week, and I think you asked, at what point do we put Tillman Fertitta in the same discussion as we've put Jeannie Buss and the Robert Sarver, all these other owners?
I mean, that was a Dolan-esque move. Like, legitimately, that was a get in front of the press without anybody knowing I'm doing it move.
I've long believed Tillman Fertitta to have been kind of the cheapskate, nickel and diming that team, screwing Daryl Morey out of opportunities,
giving up James Ennis at just to get under the cap this year. They didn't use their mid-level. They didn't sign Daniel House after the 45 days because they didn't want to go over the cap.
I know it's not a straight line comparison, but I think a lot of that played into let's let Ariza and Luka Mbamute go and do their own thing as well. And I always thought those were mistakes. Like, bringing in Carmelo Anthony was a mistake. I thought it was like
cost him anything.
Yeah, but it felt like a ticket sales thing.
Yeah,
like
exactly. That's
let's make his jersey sales, ticket sales. Let's bring this guy in. And I've long thought that he belongs in that conversation. The problem is Jeannie Buss is so publicly bad,
right?
And James Dolan is so publicly bad, and Robert Sarver has been doing this thing for years, pal.
Sarver's just at least Fertitta's not yelling at guys courtside,
right?
Like, he's not that Robert Sarver.
At least Fertitta hasn't been doing this for 2 decades,
right?
So it's like,
and he didn't inherit his team like Dolan or Buss,
right? And so I think that's why he could be as bad. I don't think that he'll ever be noticeably
rapidly
as
approaching
bad.
Tom Gore's levels.
Yeah, he's getting there.
Yeah.
And I do think Tom Gores is getting to that point, but they're just the guys that'll never get talked about. Tom Gores because he owns the Detroit Pistons, and Tillman Fertitta because other people are there.
Third most populated city in the league?
But there are other owners in the league that are more volatile to take that limelight away from it.
Without a doubt.
Like, when it's happening at the 2 most valuable franchises in the league, you're always going to fly under the radar.
And you think about Dolan, too. Steve Mills is not a big-time president. In a sense, Rob Pelinka is only because he was Kobe's agent. Or
Sure.
he's not. Daryl Morey is a high-pedigree basketball name. People know him. And he's a personality as a GM. He goes on podcasts. He talks to people. He cracks jokes. And he talks shit on Twitter. He takes a lot of that heat off for Tito without anybody really noticing.
Yeah, and that's another aspect of just like some owners can be really bad and go under the radar. Like I think What's His Nuts in Sacramento did for years, where everybody knew how bad he was, but nobody was coming out and screaming about it.
They were all just saying Vlade Divac is an idiot.
Right, and people have gotten on, who was it got on the podcast and said, fuck Robert Sarver. It's like
Matt Barnes.
Yeah, Toma Fertitta is never getting that level of veracity. So I do think the heat comes off of him a little bit. Free agency winners and losers, and then a little bit of breaking news regarding a local football player.
Fun.
A local college football player.
Even more fun.
Yes, it should be enjoyable. So free agency winners and losers. The number one winner is the Clippers to me.
Yeah, I had to toss up Clippers or Nets, whichever one.
See, I can't put the Nets there yet just because...
I mean, they got 2 top 10 guys also. It's very similar.
Yeah, but one of them might be really bad. Like, it just...
not from... I mean, he's a good player. I mean,
right, but you know what I'm saying? Like, one of them might just
could
be
implode your locker room.
Active cancer.
Yes, true, without a doubt. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are as easygoing as 2 superstars you're going to find.
Like, I think the Nets... Paul
George has now asked for a trade from 2 places. Just saying.
Yeah, but he wasn't ever going to ask for a trade from OKC until Kawhi was like, hey, bro, listen.
Fair. Very fair. But at the same time, he did. Like, he did ask for a trade.
Russell Westbrook did that now, too.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
It'll be interesting.
No, I think I have the Nets on, like, standby because I think 2020, 2021, they could be the best team in the East. Mm-hmm. But I got to see what Kevin Durant looks like when he comes back from the worst injury a basketball player can suffer. And I got to see how Kyrie interacts with those guys. Because Kenny Atkinson had a comment today that they're very excited to getting him in and working chemistry out with the guys that they have on the roster. And my whole deal is, what does Kenny Atkinson do when Kyrie stops talking to those guys? Because I think at this point, it's inevitable. There will be a time in Kyrie's tenure in Brooklyn where he will not be speaking to multiple players on the roster. Or he will be very, very passive-aggressive in post-game press conferences. And I think when you got the 2 most sensitive superstars maybe in the history of the league...
Close to it.
It's a volatile situation in Brooklyn. I think they could easily be the best team in the East. I think they could just as easily have signed themselves up for a disaster that destroys a rebuild that was really, really good.
I agree. I mean... I just want to emphasize, he is a really good basketball player.
Absolutely. But I also just watched him ruin my team.
Without a doubt. But he made second-team All-NBA while he did it. And they were the 4th seed in the East. He did blow it up. I agree with you entirely. But he is a damn good basketball player.
That's true. It's more than fair. Is Golden State a winner or a loser?
Right on the line for both. You
lose Kevin Durant.
Piece. Yeah, but they did.
But you also
the rest of it. Willie Cauley-Stein is sneaky good.
I have to put Golden State as a winner though, because I think you went and got a 23-year-old all-star in exchange for a guy who wasn't going to play for you next year, regardless if he left or not.
How good was JaVale McGee next to Draymond?
Real nice.
Willie Cauley-Stein is younger JaVale, except he's not quite as big of a bonehead as younger JaVale. He's still a bonehead, but not quite as big a one as JaVale McGee running back down the court while his team's still on offense, bonehead. They made some really good signings. Glenn Robinson's a nice fit there. They did some things. They got younger. They got more athletic.
And I thought they were going to be bad this year, and they made some signings that made me kind of walk that back and wonder if they
Bobby
might
Marks
just...
saying they're not a playoff team made me lose any ounce of respect I had for Bobby Marks, which was not a lot because he ruined the Nets. But
listen, Mitch Kupchak said that Terry Rozier would be a lottery pick if he had been in this year's draft class.
Yeah, well, he's what, 23? I hope.
He should be.
Better be a lottery pick.
Somebody said, if we're picking him at 23, but if we're going back in time and he's not a lottery pick.
He would have been a lottery pick in this year's draft class. You just gave him $58 million. I hope he would have been the number 1 pick in this year's draft class.
I think people just the NBA has this weird thing where people in high level positions say dumb shit a lot. It's weird.
Charlotte is just I don't even want to talk about them. They're such a disaster.
They stink. So who else? Who's the big loser from free agency?
It's
got to be the Knicks.
I gotta say the Knicks. Like I gotta.
Charlotte's
say the
there.
Knicks.
It's the Knicks.
It could be Charlotte, but Charlotte was screwed either way. Like if they brought Kemba back, they were screwed. They could do nothing. Like
you remember vividly in February. I didn't say it on the pod, but I said off the show. If you're trading Kristaps, and it means that you're bringing in Julius Randle and all these Bobby Portis and Taj Gibson, listen. You got to do it. I told you this. I said this.
And I don't want to call them losers because, for a young team, the signings they made are kind of nice. They got guys who play hard. They fit Fizdale's system. If you're trying to build for the next 10 years, then what you just did was good. But you traded a unicorn. That means you were trying to win right now, and you weren't building for the next 10 years. And now you're back to building for the next 10 years without aforementioned unicorn.
It's
you're
not
paying
a good
Julius Randle $30 million or whatever it is. 20 point or whatever it is.
It's classic James Dolan, and it's now to the point where if I'm Adam Silver, I'm getting on the horn with James Dolan, and I'm telling him, look, you are the governor of the second most valuable franchise in this league, and you are running it into the fucking ground.
They're the most valuable franchise in the league.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sell this team.
Yeah,
we can do this nicely, or
we can
do this meanly.
There's so many things. Like he kicks people out of the guard, and he does all these abhorrent things. Like I don't understand it, but
maybe they're good for ratings. Like people love to talk about how bad the Knicks
sell out the Garden, and they have the highest TV deal of any, or the Lakers do.
Right,
now,
so I guess hey, sell this team that you're making me money hand over fist on, while also being the biggest slander factory maybe in sports.
True.
So at the same time, maybe let Dolan be Dolan and run this team into the ground, because the Knicks fans fill up Barclays, for God's sakes.
They will. The new Nets fans.
And they'll fill up the Garden just the same, because it's such a special place to see a basketball game. There will still be
A-listers courtside, and it will still be New York. Like, no matter who's playing there. They turned out to watch Trey Burke and Tim Hardaway in the backcourt. Like, they don't care.
The other loser for me for free agency is small market teams. And I know that's a bit of a cop-out, but I have an issue with everybody's tweeting how Kawhi is the new balance in the force, pun intended, and
that was a good pun.
Everybody's talking about how Kawhi has suddenly brought this competitive parity to the NBA, and I kind of fundamentally disagree with it, because one, if Kawhi Leonard and Paul George both stay healthy, and Montrezl Harrell and Patrick Beverley stays healthy, and Lou Williams stays healthy, the Clippers are going to win the NBA championship.
No doubt about it. Like, they have Doc Rivers. Like, let's not forget that, too. Top 3 coach in the NBA.
Yeah. They have all of the pieces. They have what I would call the best rotational lineup in the NBA, and they also have both the best offensive and defensive lineup that I can see in the NBA for next year. Yeah. If everything goes chalk, the Clippers win the championship.
Sure.
So, as much as we can say there's competitive parity, I still have a very clear favorite. The other thing is, can we really say that there's competitive parity when every single player in the league so clearly wants to be in either LA, New York, or Miami? I think we have...
Utah is good.
I think we have a... But again, like, Mike Conley wasn't going there as a free agent. And he wasn't staying in Memphis unless he could have gotten his extension.
True. I think, for me, like...
And, like, Bogdanovich, yeah, but is Bogdanovich winning you a championship?
He might be the guy who pushes you into the finals. Like, they wanted Mirotic. Mirotic leaving sent a huge ripple effect that allowed Bogdanovich to get a whole bunch of money, which in turn allowed Brogdon to get a whole bunch of money. There was a massive ripple effect. That's another small market team that I think did well for losing Bogdanovich. Indiana did pretty damn good with Brogdon and the other signings they made. When does small start? Because, I mean, Dallas had a hell of a summer. Dallas has done really well.
Yeah, but I can't call them small market.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not sure when...
Like, when you have an owner like Mark Cuban,
But bringing in Boban, bringing in DeLon Wright, bringing in Seth Curry, they've done really well this summer.
I think Portland is a team you could call small market, and you look at
did well this summer.
But you look at the things that they've had to do over the past 10 years to stay competitive.
They've had Lillard $190 million.
You've had to pay Lillard through the nose. You've had to work your ass off to keep CJ happy. They've had to do so many things. They couldn't keep LaMarcus Aldridge because of their situation.
But he went to San Antonio. He didn't jump for a small market.
But at the time he went to San Antonio, it was also the premier franchise for competitiveness.
They got Marcus Morris this year
in the NBA. I think now, we're seeing all of these free agents. Marcus Morris isn't a superstar. All the superstar,
he's
top
basically
flight
Rudy
guys.
Gay, which is why I don't know why the Spurs want him, because they already have Rudy Gay.
Right. All the top flight guys. Kawhi went to LA. LeBron last year went to LA. Anthony Davis wanted to do anything he could to go to LA. Kevin Durant, Kyrie went to New York.
Julius Randle went to New York.
Oh, boy.
All the big stars, they're coming out. Yeah, you're absolutely right, but that's how it's been forever, right? It's usually not the guys who are at this stage of their career or this young, but the guys who are 31 years old and want to win, they go to New York or LA or wherever it is they can win.
And it's where the next thing I want to see in the next CBA is if you give rookies max contract extensions, count it not against the cap.
I think count half of it. Count whatever percentage of it is the can.
That would help small market teams to remain competitive, because right now, Charlotte's only hope for retaining Kemba, and I'm not saying they should have done it, was to pay him $220 million. But then you're strapping the rest of your roster.
Yeah, it's entirely Charlotte's fault. Charlotte should not be
right, and it's a bad example, but you get the point. Is
absolutely
what the Wizards had to do to hold on to John Wall.
Right,
all of these teams have to hand out contracts that are inherently bad.
Yeah, even the Clippers had to do it to Blake Griffin. They just moved him right away after.
Which Clipper for life.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where I worry about with the next CBA is make max contracts not count entirely against the cap. And also, I don't think I would mind seeing 7-year deals.
They fought to get rid of them last time.
I know.
Yeah.
Because player mobility was so important.
True.
But with player mobility, right now, free agents, not maybe superstars.
Maybe we could mix those two things together, where you can give a rookie max extension of 7 years, and if you give them the 7-year one, it doesn't count against your cap, but if you trade him, it counts. Something like that.
Because right now, the problem is superstars are always free agents, even when they aren't free agents.
Yeah,
because Paul George just walked into Presti's office and said, "Hey, I want out."
Well,
bro.
Aaron Mintz called, but yeah, it's not like Paul George actually did it.
But it's how LeBron has leveraged that how many times? Kyrie did it.
Talk about having a summer too, Aaron Mintz. Dear Lord,
yeah, not bad.
That guy. He got Randall paid. He got Paul George out of OKC. He got everybody paid.
Not bad. He did his job. Listen, him, Rich Paul, they did their... Rich Paul got a little dunked on at the end there, but...
That photo of Rich Paul behind LeBron on the phone, knowing that in his ear someone was telling him Kawhi was going to the Clippers, because it happened an hour later.
Yep.
That was awesome. That was everything I needed.
All right, here's our breaking news. It's very local. It is former Michigan quarterback Shea Patterson.
Which one's she? Wait, he's not there anymore?
He's still there. Right, he's staying. And he meant to tweet from his burner account.
Oh, you hate to see that.
And he did not tweet from his burner account.
You hate to see that.
Somebody, it was in response to Bull 2019 Rookie of the Year, who was responding to all college football on Twitter. 24/7 Sports ranks the top 10 QBs in the Big Ten. 1, Justin Fields. 2, Shea Patterson. Somebody responded, "Why is Shea Patterson so high? We all saw his game against Ohio State and Florida last season, right? Michigan losing to Ohio State again. Ryan Day is going to make Harbaugh his bitch." Shea Patterson responded and then deleted the tweet once he realized it wasn't from his burner with, "Patterson is going to be the best QB in the conference. Fields hasn't even played a snap yet. That kid's so overrated. The creme de la creme. Shea would have won the Heisman last season if Harbaugh had let him call the plays."
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, he Colangelo'd himself. You can't call out somebody else on your team. At least KD was just, come on. Oh, you hate to see it. I don't know why I'm smiling, because you just hate to see it. Oh, buddy. 2 phones. You gotta have 2 phones. You can't have the burner on the same phone. Come on. Only put the burner on your computer. Do not have the burner on your phone. It's a terrible idea. Or just don't have a burner like the rest of the world.
I am just...
It's one thing if you stop at Shea would have won the Heisman, or Shea would have whatever, or Shea's going to be better than Justin Fields. You cannot say if Harbaugh would have let him call the plays. What college coach lets their quarterback call the plays? Especially a Super Bowl caliber NFL coach. Coaching in college is going to let you call the plays? You first-year transfer from Ole Miss? You had 6 months with the playbook? You think he's going to turn you loose in Columbus? Hello, Dylan McCaffrey. You're starting now, buddy.
Oh, my God. Shea, he can't be on the team.
No. Transfer.
He can't be on the team.
When's the supplemental draft? Did that happen already?
I don't know if Harbaugh's seen this yet, but the second he does, he's getting on the horn with Shea. Hey, buddy. Let's get in the locker room. Come see me in my office. Yeah. The QB guru, Jim Harbaugh, getting called out for not letting his quarterbacks call plays.
Man.
Brutal. They said Patterson is not clarified at this time if he was hacked or someone else was tweeting from his account.
He was hacked. Yeah, he was definitely hacked. It was his mom.
Goodness.
He left his computer open at home, and his mom's like, "Oh no, I'm not letting this one slide."
Are you kidding me? They called out Shea and said Ryan Day's going to make Harbaugh his bitch.
Unbelievable.
Nobody talks to my son like that.
That is. Oh.
They're going to say it was his girlfriend.
Oh my God,
babe, did you see what this Bull 2019 ROI said about you on Twitter? Babe, don't worry. I responded to him. I let him know what you think of Coach Jim.
I Kelly Stafford the hell out of him.
I let you know what you think of Coach. Let's not talk about Kelly Stafford.
Well, no, I'm happy she's doing well, but the fact remains that she used to go on Twitter and bitch at people who would say bad things about Matthew Stafford.
That is true.
Defend your man.
True.
I'm not saying it's a knock, but
that is true.
It's Kelly Staffording someone.
It is. Well, it's a new verb. Yeah. Shea Patterson got Kelly Stafford by his girlfriend. I almost hope that's what happens, that he comes out and says, yeah, my girlfriend sent that. Whoopsie.
Imagine being the Michigan PR people who had a very nice 4th of July weekend off. They're starting to get the Sunday scaries, and then all of a sudden they get a text like, uh-oh. Well, we're going to be answering phone calls for the next little while from every outlet in the country that wants to ask if we know about this and if Harbaugh's seen it.
I would love to be sitting with Dylan McCaffrey right now, just
laughing,
seeing that Shea sent. I hope that Dylan McCaffrey has Shea on tweet alerts on his phone, and he just got the alert. It's like,
dude,
he said what?
That's so deep. He'll come back from it, but I don't know how. I really don't know how. Oh, man.
Tough look for Michigan football on July 7th, 2019, folks.
Well,
not a great start to the season.
The leaders and best.
As always. That's it, I think.
For sure.
Thanks for listening.
Later.
We'll be back next week.